What's up, y'all? You're listening to the My Aggie Nation podcast. I'm Alex Miller, joined always by Robert Cessna. Apologies for our technical difficulties. We had Cease in here trying to fix the TV, and, it was about as bad as Florida trying to stop A&M's ground game last Saturday.
Kind of reflects my thoughts most of the time, though, so not bad.
Well, hey, A&M's jumping back into non-conference action this weekend against Bowling Green. I think everybody's question they want to know is, who's going to be the quarterback for the Aggies? Heard from Mike Elko earlier today on the SEC teleconference. The good news for A&M is that Elko said when they did the re-imaging on Connor Wegman's shoulder, the right throwing shoulder that's got the AC joint sprain, he said there was no further damage, but at this point, still doesn't have a full plan for who's going to be the quarterback Saturday. Sounds like Wegman was able to throw a little bit today in practice. A&M, of course, does the morning practices. So I don't know, Cease. What do you make of all that?
I'd be surprised if Reed doesn't play, just because you could say they know if Wegman's 100% or not. But even if the doctors say he's 100%, he goes out and gets hit on that shoulder, hit somewhere else, I think even if he was 100% healthy, I'd give him another week. And then plus the fact that Marcel Reed had this dazzling performance, that's the main reason I'd give him another week, no matter what I said. Is this guy for real? He should be for real against Bowling Green, which I think is a good test in a lot of ways. So I'm expecting to see Reed under center.
Well, if it is Reed, now that you've had a few days to digest what he did last Saturday against Florida, what are some of the things you think he really did well, and where are some areas that you might look to see him improve this weekend?
I just think the fact is that there's no major gaffes, no bad plays. Yes, they had some bad penalties, but his talent and skill level helped overcome those. I just was amazed at how steady he was on the road. Bad conditions for at least the third quarter. It was raining, not a bobble, not a real misread. What I expect him to get better at is maybe more polish. I mean, he already was going, it looked like to me, to second and third reads, and we just haven't seen A&M quarterbacks do that. I thought Kellen Mond did it because Jimbo was yelling in his ear so much all the time, but he didn't do it fluidly. I thought right from the bat, Reed looked very fluid, so I want to see if that's a real deal, and I'm interested to see what alterations, got it that time, what Colin Klein does with him at quarterback.
Well, what was interesting about the teleconference, too, was one of our A&M reporter colleagues asked him, hey, what percentage of the playbook did you guys allow Reed to operate with last week? And Elko pretty much said, There's not much in the playbook he isn't able to operate at this point, which I think is probably a good sign for A&M. But Elko also said, his skill set, particularly with what he can do in the running game, allows A&M to tailor some things to his game. And I think we saw that with some of the designed runs that A&M did with him last week that, let's be honest, they don't really do that with Connor Wegman.
Well, yeah, I mean, a whole different set of skills. When you look at it, it's just the way it is. And in today's football, unless you have NFL-type receivers, which A&M really doesn't,
no,
it's hard for a pocket quarterback to set in there and complete 70 to 80% of his passes. When you get outside, you can not only run, but we saw it right off the bat, Florida defenders, cornerbacks coming off to help, worried about reads. Suddenly a guy's wide open. And most quarterbacks in major college football, when the guy is wide open, they can get him the ball.
Well, we've talked a lot about A&M's quarterback situation. I think something that is flying under the radar right now for the Aggies, given the quarterback situation, is how well the offensive line has been playing. And, I thought it was very forthcoming on Monday when Mike Elko said, hey, we want the offensive line to be the identity of our team. And so far this season, A&M's offensive line's really risen to the occasion for the most part.
When you look at the lack of sacks, even when they were in a pro set most of the time, now you add the running element. They don't have to hold those blocks possibly as long. And then also the fact is you got two powerful running backs back there. So this is the offensive line that I think most people are waiting for the last 3 years. And finally, it is here. We kept hearing about how good Zune is, how good all these guys are. Well, now they're showing it. And when you look at it, they have the good transfer Adams. They had another transfer, Coley, the center. But they really did it with their homegrown talent last week, except for one. And the bottom line is, maybe they got a line coach that knows what's going on. They got a guy calling plays that knows what's going on. And suddenly when you see A&M, you go, wow, this is a complimentary team. They're running the ball. They're doing all these things right. And now I think the offensive line has some confidence. When's the last time we saw an offensive line with confidence?
2020.
There you go.
And that was a pretty good season for the Aggies.
That was a pretty good line, too.
I'm not ready to say that A&M's going to finish in the top 5 of the college football playoff rankings, but needless to say, A&M's in a better position offensively because of what you've seen through 3 games. And look, I get it. One of those games was against McNeese. One of those games was against probably not a very good Florida team that may only win 2 or 3 games the whole season. But the bottom line is they haven't allowed a lot of negative things, which gives you some optimism probably for what might come down the pipe later this season. I think something that's going to be interesting to watch this weekend is what happens at center, because as we know, Coley went down with a undisclosed injury during the game. You know, he was back on the sideline in street clothes. Didn't look like he was in any kind of like brace or cast or boot or anything, so not really sure what happened there. But TJ Shanahan could get a good amount of snaps if Coley's not able to go. And, I mean, A&M's down to their 3rd string center and was still operating at a pretty high level. I don't think we would have said that last year about this unit if they would have dealt with some of the injuries that they did.
And they were doing it on the road. And you could say a lot of things. I think that's a really bad Florida team, but I've seen A&M play down in the last few years to so many bad teams, and really A&M dominated. Yeah, I got to give Florida credit. Mertz had some great passes. They went ahead and scored a few touchdowns, but really A&M left about 20 to 25 points off on the field that they should have gotten. So I'm real interested to see this moving forward, because this is a good test for me, because Bowling Green is not a Power 5 conference team, but yet they're a solid program. So I want to see what adjustments they make to stop Reed and this offensive line. And I think it's not like you're talking about Alabama or somebody like that, but they have enough talent that they possibly could disrupt A&M to some extent, and I want to see how A&M counters that. So I really like this game, because to me you take steps, because I feel next week they'll play better defenders because it's the SEC and Arkansas in a neutral site. So I think this is a good stepping stone, because this is the first time I think we'll see an opponent's had a whole week to prepare and plan for Reed, because I don't think they're planning for Wakeman.
Well, the MAC has already gotten a couple nice little feathers in their cap in non-conference play. Of course, Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame the week after the Irish came down here and beat the Aggies at Kyle Field. And then Toledo takes Mississippi State to the woodshed last week. Not to mention Bowling Green already pushed Penn State for 4 quarters. You know, I don't know what's going on in the MAC right now, but I don't think A&M should be overlooking what Bowling Green can bring to the table.
I always think about MAC. You know, you think it produced people like Urban Meyer and Nick Saban coaching, Ben Roethlisberger, my Steeler quarterback, came
Mike
from
Elko.
there. Mike Elko. Mid-America stands for This is America. They're pretty good, and they're a big league. So the fact is, every year they have like 2 or 3 teams that are really good that can go beat Power 5 conferences if you're sitting around sucking your thumb. So I don't think A&M will be doing that just because of what you said. But this is a nice little test. This is not McNeese. You know, this is not somebody that's just going to come in here and lay down. They were 14-6 at Michigan last year when Michigan, all those seniors, they went in and played them well. They gave Penn State all they could handle, and Penn State woke up, and actually Bowling Green seemingly, you go back, and I was looking at that game, they kind of accepted defeat. They didn't want to do anything drastic, and they're just a proud program. They want to come in here and compete, and I think they'll do that.
Well, one thing A&M needs to clean up is special teams a little bit, especially in the kicking game. You know, Randy Bond had started so well on the season and then just coupled to the left, and it just seemed like he was off on the same line both times.
And I think I chuckled to you because I just thought the special teams have been lights out the last two weeks. Then A&M goes down and gets the field goal to cap the first possession, long drive, and I'm thinking, if you hook that or whatever, those kind of things go wrong. But then A&M's kickoff goes out of bounds right after that. And I just chuckled and I said to you, I was bragging that guy won the best kickoffs in the country, and I had a feeling that maybe special teams would struggle, and they did. They missed 2 field goals. They allowed 2 long kickoff returns, 27-28, and they came within 1 tackle of really being a big play. So I think, A&M got to remember, a lot of transfers coming in. Steele Elko's changing everything. It didn't surprise me that certain parts of the game had the hiccup. The special teams had a hiccup last week, a couple of them. It didn't hurt them, but you got to get that ready and fixed before you go up to Jerry World next week.
Well, what's the number one thing you want to see from A&M this week before they hop back into SEC play?
Just building what they did. Just so impressed with the offense. So many variables. And the fact that they can run the football. If you can run the football, there's so much you can do. So I want to see if Moss, if Daniels, if Reed, if the line is keeping people off. Very few tackles for loss. A&M didn't have very many second and 12s at all last week because of play. They might have them because of penalties, but not because they were tackled behind the line.
All right. Well, hey, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the My Aggie Nation podcast. Be sure to check theeagle.com for all of our coverage leading up to this weekend's game between the Aggies and Falcons. They are the Falcons, right?
Yes, they are. Flying higher every day.
There you go. All right. We'll see you next time here on the My Aggie Nation podcast.